Welcome back to I'm an Asset podcast. I'm Dr. Breanne Smith.
And I'm Zachary Wilson. It's good to see you guys again. Today we're going to be doing a little bit of just a recap. I had a night this week where I went to my school, and my school put together some business representatives, people who just work and have their own enterprises or work in a larger business, and they just talked to us and answered our questions and told us about their life. So I haven't told her anything about it. I thought it'd just be great to just
save it for the podcast.
Expose,
Zachary.
Talk about it naturally. Sometimes we'll talk about stuff before we do an episode on it, and we realize if we just started talking about it in here, it would sound more natural.
And that's really how this podcast, kind of this particular episode, the way that we're doing this got started, is we have these in-depth conversations about your life and experiences, and we're just now trying to have some of those conversations on camera and audio. Yeah,
that's what it's supposed to be. But in order for it to happen, I literally had to get home, and I was like, wait, why don't I save this?
Yeah, that's a good idea. So I have no idea what happened on business night at school.
So let's just get straight into it. Like I said, I'll go a little bit more in depth over the structure. There was 5 people there, and just a room of about 10 to 20 people, audience. And I was among them. And our counselor kind of just asked them some questions about that I'm going to go over all the things, the questions she asked and the points she brought up, that each of the representatives answered.
So
because I want to, this was really helpful for me, and I want to share that knowledge with viewers my age or maybe even a little younger who are getting to this stage. It's really helpful to figure out what you want to do with your life.
Yes, I think so. So this was like a panel of business owners. Is that right? They were all business owners, entrepreneurs. Okay. That's very good. And your college counselor asked the questions.
Well, yeah, not all of them owned businesses, as I said, but some of them did, but they all worked at a business.
Okay, very good.
So one was a financial planner, one worked in marketing and advertising, one was an accountant, one was like an international CEO, like he did international business and he was the CEO of a manufacturing company. And the last one was an HR, like department employee.
Okay,
so
very good.
She handled all the human resources. And so let me just start at the top with what I have here. One of the questions I asked was knowing how long it will take to be educated. So just as a central theme, these are all supposed to help, at least they helped me kind of figure out what college you want to go to and what career you want to do. Now, I always thought that whatever career I wanted to do would determine where I wanted to go to college, because if you want to do this career and it requires a certain type of education, you want to make sure your college offers that education, right? So either of those, once you kind of figure out what you want to do with your life, then you can kind of pick an institution based off that. But you don't have to know entirely what you want to do with your life yet, but I'm going to touch on that later. So knowing how long it will take to be educated, I asked this because you should know, like, just what you're getting into. If you want to be a doctor, most people know that doctors, that's a classic theme of it takes a while to actually get to the point where you know enough to legally start making money in that area, right? So you have a brother-in-law. Why don't you talk about, how long he was in school?
Yeah, my brother-in-law, who's your uncle, and there wasn't anybody that was in the medical field on this panel, right?
No, they had another night for that, but
Okay.
This is just a point I wanted to bring
Well,
up.
I know he had 4 years of undergrad, 4 years of medical school. He also did 3 years of a fellowship. And so that was a lot of education. But, you know, a lot of the medical school piece and the fellowship piece is actually work at the time that you're in this school. So he was making money there towards the end when he had a fellowship. So when you were asking, you asked the panel about how long does it take to get educated, they each answered how long they were in school for to
No,
get.
I just asked one particular person, but this is like, because, you know, I was only interested in that one specific field. But I think this is important for anyone to realize, like, this is a question they should have in their mind when choosing what career or college they want to go to.
Right. So undergraduate degree would be 4 years of college. And that would be sufficient for many career paths. If you want to get your master's degree, that can be 1 to 2 years, depending on how fast you try to get through it. And then there's a doctorate level. So you were referring to your uncle, who is a medical doctor. Yeah. So that's, 11 years of school. I also have a doctorate, which was an additional 4 years of school.
Wow.
So my undergraduate was 4, my master's took a year. So I have an MBA in accounting, and then my doctorate took 4 years. So that's just depending on how high you want to go. If you want to teach at the college level, you don't necessarily need a doctorate, but oftentimes, depending on the discipline, you do. So, and then there's some certifications like the CPA doesn't really require the master's. It requires the hours to sit for the CPA exam, which is essentially enough hours to get a master's. So why not get the degree too? So those are, I'm sure if you asked the accountant that was, maybe the answer was 5 years to get a CPA.
Didn't go that in depth, but she said 5 years. And, like I said, I just said the case with the doctor as the prime example, because if you want to be a doctor, or you want to be a lawyer, or you want to be an accountant, or some kind of industry that's regulated by the government, they're going to regulate, how people are actually getting those jobs. And so it's going to take a while to get a degree. And it's just, it's not everything, but it's just important to realize that that is one of the main factors that should go into your decision.
But also, you're not necessarily like foregoing work the whole time that you're in school either, because I worked the whole time that I was in school. I also now work at an institution where there's mostly non-traditional students who work full-time jobs, and they're going part-time to school or at night to school, which is also an option if you're trying to continue to work and further your education. But as far as traditional, school, it's not unreasonable to have a part-time job.
Yeah.
And go to school.
Yeah, if you can make that work, then that's a great idea. The next one I have up here is how much money. That's kind of broad. But I think what I was trying to say was how much money it would cost to actually get the education and get into the career. But I think that it's also important to know how much money the career you want to go into is, because some careers, I'll just say this. Think about what lifestyle you want to have, and whether or not generally how much money people make in the career you want to go into, if that would be enough to support that lifestyle. Right?
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, because my sister, originally when she started going to school, she went to a private college when she first started out, and she majored in dance. And she was is a beautiful dancer, very talented. I'm not exactly sure what she wanted to do with the dance degree, maybe teach dance, I don't know. But because she was at a private school, the income associated with teaching dance versus $60,000 a year in tuition for 4 years didn't make sense. And ultimately, she didn't get to finish that degree because they had to get rid of that major. Probably for that exact reason that not a lot of students were going to major in dance at that tuition level because the income to produce from it wasn't going to turn out. And I'm not saying that's every dance major. There's certainly people who are very, professional dancers who make good money.
Yeah.
I don't think that's what she was originally going to do. So in those situations, I think you're right. You have to look at what the cost of your education is versus what the outcome and income opportunities are.
So just a little heads up. If you hear anything the mic is picking up, there's work being done in the office right now. Don't worry about it. But
that's all right. They just showed up. They didn't ask what time they could come by.
It's fine. Just wanted to let y'all know it's not ruining anything. So the next thing I have is how much attention. What did I mean by that when I wrote that down? How much attention?
Are these all questions you asked or that other people asked?
This is generally just how much what they went over, and I compiled a list of things that I thought would be important to go over for this episode. So I don't know. I can't remember what I meant by that when I wrote that down. Let's just go to the next one. Typical day in the life / lifestyle. So I was talking about this a moment ago. It's important to realize what kind of lifestyle you want. And that's not just outside of your career. Your career, depending on what it is, could determine your lifestyle. If you work in international business and you're frequently going to be going to other countries and traveling, you better hope, I hope you like traveling, And if you want to, one of the main ones they went over there is if you want to start a family, you might want a job that doesn't, have you pull you away from your out of work hours, right? You might want, there's the typical 8 to 5, but some jobs might have you on call or require you to answer the phone 24 hours of the day. And if you want to make a distinction between your family life and your work life, that's absolutely up to you, but just know that your career could affect that. So yeah, I'm that could go a bunch of different ways.
I honestly think that is what your generation and maybe even a little bit older than you is most interested in as far as a career is work-life balance, because my generation and older is all about the grind, work ethic, working really hard, working around the clock. And I mean, the young people and a little bit older than you between our ages don't want to work like that. They want a more balanced lifestyle, which I think is a reasonable thing to desire. And so as you're talking to potential employers, how that will work within your life, how your career will work within the lifestyle that you want is going to be very important.
And a moment ago, I wasn't trying to say one lifestyle, like you should choose a particular lifestyle. I'm just saying these are all things to be aware of when you're making this decision, because you can absolutely do whatever you want with your life.
And I also think, like, I was just saying this yesterday, like I have, a pretty high tolerance for work, I guess you could say, and that I have a work ethic, which, I like to work. So I work probably on the higher end of the average person. But I also feel like I have a nice balance, but I don't work like I used to, if that makes any sense, because I used to work, 60, 70 hours a week at a big accounting firm when I was younger. And that's how I started off my career. And it's just not really like that here. We have a public accounting firm here, but we don't work hours like that. And I think if I couldn't make anybody do that because I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I just don't want to work those kind of hours. And I don't think that I physically could. So I think when you're younger, you potentially have more energy to work later and longer.
Yeah.
But now I really just don't anymore.
This doesn't really have anything. This is more of a personal aside. I would much rather work twice as hard in 4 hours than work kind of balanced for 8 hours. Like, I would rather go in and just grind for a short amount of time than chill and kind of, do in like,
And chit chat and walk around
throughout the
a water
day.
cooler. Yeah.
Because what kills me the most about like it's just the amount of time. Like, I don't like I'm gonna have to cut all this out. I don't like spending a ton of time doing work because it takes away from fun time. I do all my work and then I do what I want to do. And so when my work requires really long hours, it just sucks because then, I go home and the day's gone.
Yeah. But it also, I think the way that you work is it's really hard for you to relax and enjoy your off time when you have something you feel like is looming over you that you have to do. And I'm the same way. Like, I feel like when I'm at work, I work hard. And when I'm at home or and I play hard. And so I think that,
Play hard.
The balance there is a personal choice.
I still don't know what I meant by how much attention. Maybe I was talking about the out of work hours thing. If your job is gonna have you, answering the phone out of the 8 to 5 or the 9 to 5, you gotta be aware of that. So last one, I just have I have a quote in my phone that I'm gonna read that I think better explains this point. So this is from Morgan Housel and his book The Psychology of Money. I've had this in here for a while.
Shout out Morgan Housel. He is one of my favorite authors.
I did really like that book. And I liked this one. I'm sorry. I'd do that. That's how I popped my elbow. I totally didn't occur to me that I'm on camera right now. So it goes, some of the most miserable workers I've met are people who stay loyal to a career only because it's the field they picked when deciding on a college major at age 18. When you accept the end of history illusion, you realize that the odds of picking a job when you're not old enough to drink that you will still enjoy when you're old enough to qualify for Social Security are low. The trick is to accept the reality of change and move on as soon as possible. I'm a very... go ahead.
That's a good quote. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just from his book. I'm a very efficient person, so I resonate with this. I don't like to go out of my way and like waste a bunch of time. It just like mentally, I like to I literally think about wherever I'm going, driving, or even like walking around the house. If I need to get from one place or from one room to another, I'm like thinking about the fastest route to get there. And when I'm doing things, I'm trying to think about what will use the least amount of energy. And where this applies is time and money. In life, I don't want to decide on a college major, go to school for 2 years, and then find out it's not what I want to do, because that takes away 2 years of my life, and that takes away a lot of money. Now, you could obviously argue differently that every single major you choose could give you some benefit, and I agree. Like if you want to be an engineer and then you decide you want to be an accountant, then there's probably some
But there's
logistical
also,
benefit.
yeah, there's definitely lessons learned in just attending higher ed in
Yeah,
general.
I
And
agree.
I think there's a lot of intangibles. And just that fact that you came to that conclusion and you decided differently for yourself, I think is valuable in the higher ed education. And so I think even if you change your mind, it's better to know thyself and to go ahead and make the change and then just go with it. Move on.
Or bite the bullet, as some would say. Rip the Band-Aid off, you know, because it's going to hurt at first, especially if you're not the one. Well, both cases would hurt. If you or your parents are paying for college, it's going to hurt. Breaking it to your parents that all the money they just spent for you to go to college for the last year was for nothing because you want to do something else now. But hopefully you and them understand that it's much better to just rip the Band-Aid off and go into a field you're more passionate about and that you're better, maybe more qualified at, just as a person and how you're wired and you think. Because if the rest of your life is going to be centered around that career, then it's better to go ahead and choose it than, you know, I don't know, you may get a lot farther along and waste more time, you know.
I don't know, Zachary. I feel like that's easier said than done. And you're
I
going
agree,
through
yeah.
this process right now of trying to figure out what you want to do with your life. And it's really hard to know until you start experiencing what you think you're going to like. And see, I went to college wanting to be a lawyer, and I was very passionate about that idea. I wanted to go to law school and be an attorney. And I got into my second semester and took an accounting class, and I absolutely fell in love with accounting. So I wasn't expecting that change. And it also didn't really set me off much differently from my regular path of just, you know, majoring in general business and going to law school. So I didn't really lose any time making that change. But also, it's really important to know that not to put too much pressure on yourself to know exactly what it is that you want to do right now, because you really, until you experience some of those classes, you're just not going to know what you're passionate about,
Yeah.
maybe until you experience it. And also, I'm in my third career right now. I'm 45 years old, and I would say I'm in my third career. And so I have transitioned over the last 25 years of being in a professional career into multiple spaces. So I was in public accounting first, then I was in higher ed and I was a professor. And then now I own my own businesses and I also still am a professor at a local university. So this, you know, along the way have made transitions into things that I have wanted to do at that time. And coming right out of school or when I was in school, I didn't want to be a professor. That wasn't something that I thought I would do until later. And that's okay. You're going to have the opportunity to make pivots later on in life. But I do think it's important what you said. What you said is if you definitely don't like it, look for something else. Even if you don't exactly know what it is, you know what you don't like.
Yeah. And I wanted to swing around to that point. I said so at the beginning of the episode because I have it figured out more than other people. Some people have it more figured out than me. And you could always get there, and it wouldn't be until you're actually taking the classes, like you said, until you realize this is not what I want to do. And you can try to plan out your whole life, or you cannot, and both ways could go wrong. So just be vigilant and do everything with a purpose. Don't just, well, I don't like this, so I'll just go into this other major that my friend's doing. Like, think about your experiences in life, what you like to do, and like I said, your lifestyle that you want. If you want that work-life balance, that can really help you decide. But yeah, just be purposeful with what you're doing. Don't just go with the flow, And
one way to be purposeful, especially if you don't really know what opportunities are out there, there's some really great questionnaires online that can help you kind of find your way and your direction. And so you can find a questionnaire. There's so many online, they're free, where you can set how much money you want to make, what kind of schedule you want, what you like, what you don't like. There's one questionnaire that I've taken with a student before where it asks you things like hobby related, like, would you rather do this or this? And then the questionnaire spits out 5 or 6 different career paths based on your personality. So I think that that's something too. If you just absolutely have no idea what you might be interested in, take a career questionnaire just to get you started on thinking about it.
So this is something you can look up. I was exposed to this like 2 or 3 years ago. I was watching a TV show called Mr. Iglesias, and in that show there are students that are kind of having this same issue I'm talking about, where they're just trying to figure out, what they want to do with their life. And so one of the teachers in the show brought this up, but it's I don't know if it's a popular thing in Japan, but it's a Japanese form of finding out, what you want to do, career-wise or just lifestyle-wise. So there are 4 main circles. One is what you're good at. Mm-hmm. Now, one of the guys I was talking to, or who talked at this pre-business night meeting, said he was really good at a certain field, and his professor told him he should pursue it. And when he did, he found out, he didn't like it. He was good at it, but he just didn't like it. So find out what you're good at, but also what you love. Those are 2. Then what the world needs. Some people don't care as much for that. But like if you're a noble person and you want to do a nonprofit or you want to go into the military, those are definitely things to think about, but those apply differently to everybody. Mm-hmm. And then what you can be paid for. So how much money you get.
Yeah.
And there's more in here, and some of these charts have more circles than others. It's called the Ikigai, Ikigai. Mm-hmm. It says the Japanese secret to a joyful life. And obviously that's not the ultimate, and there are questionnaires online, but there's not going to be one thing you do. But those are just like some kind of things to think about when deciding, what career, what lifestyle, what you want to do.
And then you're doing something that I think is also very important, and you're doing it quite early, and I think that's good. And that's you're actually working in a place that you're considering doing for your career, which is you're working here. Mm-hmm. And oftentimes when you go to school, you have an opportunity to do a work study or an internship and pick something in the field that you're considering, and you'll know real quick if you like it or not. And that's helpful as well.
And I definitely want to add to that, because one thing that all of these people shared in common was internships. I'm interning for her business, and I'm getting paid for it. But some people, you don't have to have like a job, and that can be a little intimidating. And some people think, an internship means a very long-term thing. Some people just go to the said office for a couple of hours, and some people might do like a season, like in the spring, a spring internship. Some are paid, some are not paid. But the thing about the not paid ones is, if you want to go to, one thing all these people agreed on is, if you want to check out a business and you just want to shadow, or you want to intern where you're actually maybe even doing a little work for them, if you offer to do a non-paid internship, they're not only going to think, this person's trying to get ahead, but they're probably going to take you because it's free labor. Now the benefit for you would be, the benefit for them is they're getting the work, but for you, you're getting the exposure without worrying about having all the qualifications to get said exposure. And what that's going to do for you, it sounds like you know a little bit about this.
Yeah, and also in many cases, you can get 3 hours college credit for working an internship. Even if you don't get paid, you get the credit for like a class.
And there's it can be intimidating. I'm speaking like I'm out of college, but I'm not. I know just from hearing from other people that it's intimidating finding a first job when you get out of college. I've worked a lot already. I already have. I'm not going to go into it. So people, my first employer will see my application and say, okay, this person knows what a professional work environment is like, and they have time management skills and they've dealt with deadlines before. So that's what they're looking for. But if you don't have any work experience, it doesn't mean they're going to throw your application away. I mean, you'll still have education. But the internships are a great way to get qualities like that. And you don't have to be intimidated if you're doing an internship because it's not permanent and there's not a ton of pressure like you have to stay there, or they're going to do a really extensive process to let you do it because they might not be paying you a lot or even at all. So I think if you have the time, you should pursue internships. I felt like I explained that poorly.
No, I don't think so. And it's also good for the employer too, because if it's a great way to try out new hires for a season. And if it doesn't work out, there was already an end date to your internship at the end of the semester. But if it's, if they want to continue on with you, they can always offer you more time.
Yeah, and they might offer you the job. Yeah.
Right. And so we typically always have at least one intern around here. It's very common in the financial industry, especially accounting, to have an internship. And the benefit in accounting is most accounting firms are not only going to pay you, but you're also going to get the credit. So double whammy.
Yeah. I think one more thing I'll say, this kind of circles back to what the world needs. If you want to go into an industry that everybody wants, then you have to be aware of that. Like she said, and the other accountant that was at this meeting last night said that if you get your CPA, you will have a job.
Yeah, because there is a shortage, but high demand for CPAs. And so I think that's definitely a career that is highly sought after as far as graduates. The university that I work at, we have 100% placement, 6 months before they graduate, because the firms are already offering jobs prior to graduation, right after internship. So you definitely, if you're, a good worker, you're going to have a job as an accountant. And I think that there are many careers like that. There's also, on the other side of the token, other jobs that maybe aren't so needed but are popular. So
exactly,
just knowing that. And so those are going to pay less, and you might have a harder time finding something.
Yeah, that's exactly what I wanted to get at. Was just one more thing to consider. So thank you guys. If you made it through the whole video, I'm very proud of you. I know that was not super interesting, but I think
it was very interesting, and I'm glad to know how well your business night went and that you got something out of it. Yeah. I think the more and more you seek, other people's opinions and your options, I think it's great. Because, of course, I could tell you, Zachary, I think you should be an accountant and a CPA, but I am an accountant and a CPA and your mother. And I think it's good to venture out and get other perspectives like you did.
Yeah. And I got a lot out of it. So I thought, if I relayed some of that, then our viewers could.
Absolutely.
That's what this whole thing's for.
Yes, so, of course. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on today's episode of the I'm an Asset podcast. Don't forget, our website is live. There's cool merch. Soon I will be wearing it.
Really cool merch. Yes.
And
I'm an assetpodcast.com.
Yeah.
We'll see you next time.